Hi there, and welcome to my Soul Authority channel. I'm Lorraine Van Tool, transformational life coach, holistic psychologist, and meditation guide. I'm staking out the safe spiritual space in solidarity so we can hear our authentic voice over all the noise and realign ourselves with clear choice. This is at the heart of Soul Authority. If you felt burned out and low, join us in rekindling our inner fires and getting back in the flow. The teaching that's coming through is I'm not sure how well versed you all are in meditation, but even so, I think it's helpful to get a quick overview and a reminder, refresher of all the different kinds of meditations that you've probably heard of. So there's mindfulness meditation and mindfulness awareness, and that can take on many different forms. It can even be mindful eating, mindful walking, or sitting in mindful meditations. And we'll talk a little bit about different postures as well. Then you have the samatha meditations, and those are more like finding quiet, clearing the mind, not just non-judgmentally observing what's going on, which is what mindfulness meditations are about. Inherent in that is that as we become more present and non-judgmental and loosen our ego identities with what's going on within ourselves, like kind of loosening up the over-identification, we drop into deeper states of relaxation. But that is not always guaranteed and the case. I remember going to a Life and Mind Institute, and there was a monk there, Tibetan monk, and he was saying a sniper or, somebody who had very negative and bad intention could be very mindful and very relaxed and also very focused. And that is not necessarily what we're trying to aspire to, if we're trying to meditate and align ourselves with our true nature. So samatha meditation helps us to also focus our attention, and I think I'm adding some of my own interpretations to this, or scattered energy, because most of us are, I believe, traumatized by all the different things, scattered, dissociated, disconnected from our bodies and from our wise self. So it does require a little bit of dropping in and noticing all that and learning to focus our attention in a one-pointed focus, and also getting to a place of calmness, and where sometimes you hear about this guided meditations that you might be buying or maybe listening to on calm, like you're looking at these clouds, you're looking at all that is sort of luring you to react. You're uncoupling and you're letting all of these float by like boats or like clouds, that sort of thing. So the next level of meditation is Vipassana meditation. And you might naturally do all these things, but it's good to sort of learn the A, B, C's again. You might be natural poets, but it's good to break down all the steps and things that we're doing. So Vipassana meditation is more of an insight-oriented meditation. So now that you have more spaciousness and you're clearing the field, there's things that are going to bubble up as you're integrating or attempting to integrate. You're going to see what is getting in between um, your attempts to integrate, and your body and your wisdom will naturally come up with insight of why that thing is there. It's usually something painful, something uncomfortable, that we are only able to access as our body relaxes, because the opposite of that is constriction, is fear, and it's disconnection and splintering, right? So as you relax, you're able to tune in to that thing that is right there, wedging and causing a wedge between you or your mind, your heart, that sort of thing. And you're getting this insight and this healing, and you can release this energy. So this often also happens when you're doing massage therapy, sometimes when you're dreaming, when you're relaxed. So you're getting more in an alpha state, and a theta state is even deeper. Delta state is when we're sleeping and dreaming. Gamma is maybe even deeper. These are all hypnotic and trance states and meditative states. So it's not guaranteed. Sometimes I've seen this when people do mindfulness meditation that they're necessarily getting into these deeper states. But through this training and becoming aware and becoming aware of also what your body feels like when you're connected, and sort of the limitations of each, you can guide yourself more and more into these states. Now, Soul Authority and what I created, the Soul Sanctuary, that is an integration of all these methods, and also, I would say, informed by, inspired by my shamanic journeying, is nature-centered meditation that not only helps us or requires us to connect to our body, but also to the deep wisdom that our body is a subset, or is nature, is a mini earth, is um, a version of nature. So by connecting to our body and nature, we are connecting more deeply to nature wisdom and aligning ourselves, or using the elements, using nature guidance to continue to tweak how our ego mind can play tricks on us and can continue to want to sort of split us up or keep us dissociated and be more ego guided. So shamanic journeying is consciously going into these deeper trance states, going into these other realms and sort of knocking on the door, using spirit guides, using guides that you've already worked with, to gain deeper insight in a shadow aspect, in a pain point, in some healing that you want. So these are more, and these are quite sophisticated techniques that sit on foundational levels, but it's accessible to anyone and everyone. Some of us are born very natural, able to do that. That was my case, but what is the case with many of us who are naturally able to do that? All of these levels are collapsed, which was the case with me, and they're bleeding into each other. And I did not have any control over turning the dial, so to speak, if you think of all of these as radio stations, to the radio station I wanted to work at or wanted to be at, the volume of them. And so limit setting and energetic boundaries, which you will learn also, as you set up this sanctuary. So the boundaries between yourself and outer energies, all of that also applies to setting energetic boundaries within yourself, and not just the healthy ones where you're just sort of trying to control the different radio stations and the different things you're working on, but it also has to do with setting limits and becoming aware of what you've internalized. So not just all the crazy stuff that's sort of happening outside of us right now, but all the things that you've already experienced in the past and internalized or assumed was something about you. So now, when we go into the sanctuary, we're kind of starting with the, sort of, it's a bottom-up approach, where I'm saying shamanic journeying, by the way, also um, often teachers teach you to start with the upper world or the lower world. And this doesn't mean lower self or anything like that, or higher self. It just means different realms, the more grounded realms or the more ethereal realms. And these are distinct from the middle world, because in the middle world you have all kinds of energies, more imbalanced energies, nature energies that are more balanced, and human energies that are more imbalanced. I'm starting with the truth and the premise, I guess that's quite challenging, saying that humans are also nature spirits and could be compassionate guides, and we need to go deep within ourselves with the help of a tree guide. So nature spirits are considered compassionate beings. In the lower and upper world, you're taught to go there, start there, because there's more of a guarantee that there are compassionate beings there that you'll encounter, while it's not so clear cut what you'll encounter in the middle world. You could even have sort of nasty appearing or, sort of questionable characters show up in the lower and upper worlds. But when you drop in to these, sort of realms, it's a guarantee more or less that they're there having your highest good as their sole intent or focus. So now it's a little bit trickier when we start with the middle world, but why I like that and do that is because I've seen that addressing paradox and the trickiness of this. So if you start with your tree guide and you're already from the get-go learning to connect to darkness and light at the same time, to the below and the above, seen and unseen, cool and hot, good, bad, all the different things, matter and spirit, all the things that tend to be split, it already requires and invites your mind to operate from this wise self. And it just cuts a lot of I mean it prevents you from going on a lot of detours from what I've seen. Because if we start with the ego mind, we can do all kinds of elaborate journeys. I've seen that in the earlier years of my practice, and it still would not translate to the needle moving in any significant way, because our ego minds are so powerful. So you can have people with a lot of air guides, but no earth guides, so to speak, not grounding anything, not seeing any traction in their actions, or a lot of emotions and crying and grief, but no boundary setting with fires, no courage, no any of that needed to happen for any of that to switch. So my soul authority methods and starting in the sanctuary is an integration of mindfulness, samatha, vipassana, insight-oriented meditation, using nature-centered wisdom, using shamanic techniques, but grounding you in this spaciousness, grounding you in Mother Earth, in your body. And also the other thing, that I would hear is like, oh, I don't know how to connect with the guide. I don't know if I'm doing it right. So if we drop into the body and we connect right away, and the tree guide and all the nature guides have taught me over the years, step by step, by tweaking, how to help almost anybody immediately connect with their true nature. And the nature guides is by leaning against the tree, following your breath, and understanding how the elements move in your body. So it has also prevented people from feeling like they're not doing it right. There's an immediate sort of rightness. The other thing that I want to acknowledge is that it has a lot of overlap with indigenous teachings, Lakota tradition, indigenous native teachings, but also my ancestral background, Taoist teachings. But that was, I would say, after the fact, after the guides had more directly spoken to me and guided me in these particular ways. So I honor them. I think they were also very active. I just was sent an invitation to some ancestral teachings, a documentary that came for the Eternal Song, and many of the things that suddenly bubbled up in the past 2 weeks are all congruent and consistent. So I honor all the guides. I feel like my guides have roots in different continents, my multiracial roots. So I acknowledge them from all these places. My animal guide, just because I want to be transparent about that, is a leatherback sea turtle, also sort of roaming the earth. So there's a lot of sort of earth guidance I feel in my lineage. But I also want to acknowledge just the guides of the lands right here, the Ohlone guides, also guides of my birthplace in the Amazon rainforest, and my rainbow crystal guide, which is more of the human embodiment, but symbolizes the shape-shifting aspect of the guidance. Thank you for joining me today in staking out spiritual space in solidarity and in community. Please share this video and the Zoom link below with anyone who would love some support in hearing their authentic voice over all the noise and realign with clear choice. I offer me time through meditation virtual meetings every second and fourth Monday of the month from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. PST. If you would like deeper and more personalized guidance, how to heal, love, lead with soul authority, please visit me at soulauthoritycoaching.com or thesacredhealingwell.com for more information.